Hey, it's Pete from Abstract Ocean. Today we're installing an ultra bright trunk light for Model Y. So if you have a Model Y, you'll know there's this weedy little light in the trunk lining. So this kit replaces it. I'll show you on camera what it looks like. So this is an 8 LED replacement that sits on the surface. We do need to remove or drop down the trim to install it. It's the only way to get to the back of this bulb. So bear that in mind. You don't need any tools to do that, and depending on the age and build quality of your Model Y, it can be easy, it can be a bit fiddly. So we'll go through each step, but generally speaking this is a 5 or 10 minute job, so it shouldn't be too bad. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the two bumpers here. Before you do this, kind of pay attention to roughly where they are, and you can kind of count the unscrewing part of it as well. So that's about 7 turns. This one should be about the same. And this only matters because this is what sets the panel gap when the trunk closes. So keep these safe somewhere. And then we need to pull this off first. It seems that on some Model Ys, this is inside the trim. On others, like ours, this is an early build 2020 Model Y, it's just on the outside, so it just slides off. But either way, it's pretty obvious what happens with that. Set that aside. And then we're going to pull down the trim. And what this will do, obviously this main piece will pull down. There's some cables and stuff that should sort of hold it in place more or less. These pieces back here, which on our car are already kind of loose anyway, but they'll drop down a little bit too, so it's not too bad. The camera angles might be a bit weird though, so we're going to just kind of gently pull on it. And you kind of need to clear the closing mechanism here as well, because that will hold this section up until that's cleared. So we're just going to move that over there, and then pull down on this a little bit. Alright, so that's what the back of, or the inside of your trunk trim looks like. A bunch of sound insulation, a couple of speakers, and the light, which actually fell out as I did that, but this is what the light looks like. Hopefully I have my little tool. So what we need to do is unplug it, and let me cover up the light for a second. There's a tiny little hole there. I'm going to use this tool, but you can use a drawing pin or something just to push in there and release it, like that. We're going to set this to one side, don't need that anymore. And then underneath, I probably should have done this before, but hopefully you can see on this camera, this bit just pops out, the lens piece, like that. Okay, so now we're left with the power cable, which we're going to pass through the opening, and then we just need to close everything back up, and then we're going to install the light. So you'll see where the trim clips go. So there's one here, there's an alignment clip here. These white things are the main ones. They pop into the openings on here. So you just need to pay attention as you push it back up, especially these ones at the back, that they go into the right slots. Got one that's a bit mashed up there. Just reshape that. If you've spent any time at all taking trim out of a car, you'll know it's not a precise science. It's just a bunch of whacking it with the back of your hands. So we're going to be doing some of that too. I'm looking at these main. Maybe if I just grab this camera real quick, bring it down a little bit. So you'll see maybe this big prong at the back. We want to make sure that locates in the hole at the top there. And then there's a corresponding one here as well, which goes up there, and obviously on the other side too. So we just want to make sure all these things line up, and then this one obviously hits this hits that middle hole there. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Get over there. Okay, there we go. So as I say, there's not much science to this, but you'll know when you've correctly located it, and you won't see any of the trim up here either. As you can see, I'm going to pull this down a little bit just so we can see what's going on here. Okay, let's get that one in. And then the same here. Okay. I'm going to make sure that's clipped in properly. She goes in there. There we go. That was good. Alright, now we've done that, we're going to put that back on. It's pretty easy. And then the last bit is to grab the light, and this just fits onto the factory connector, like so. We're going to feed that back in, and you should see on the back of the light unit is the sort of receptacle that goes into the opening, it replicates the original lens, and that just fits in like that. Okay, so now we've got this in place, we're going to grab our little bumpers. And these, they hold in the trim as well, but they just turn into the hole here. When we took them out, it was about 7 turns, so we're going to do the same thing, put them back in. He says optimistically. You kind of have to get the, there we go. Okay, that's 7. Same again up here. And then we're just going to close the trunk, make sure it closes properly. The car's filthy, but just check the trim across the back to make sure it's all good. And then obviously if it's not, then you just need to wind these out by 1/4 of a turn each time. We do also have the trunk sill protectors on here. We have these in this brushed steel finish or carbon fibre, so they add a little extra depth as well, so we already had to adjust them once just to account for that. Alright, we'll add some side-by-sides and comparisons so you can see how bright it is when it's dark, but thank you for watching. So here's the side-by-side, the factory light on the left and then our replacement ultra bright on the right. So the main thing to note is the shadows. Neither of these photos have been enhanced. So with the factory light you get a lot of shadows towards the back of the trunk, you really can't see anything on the sides, whereas with ours, because the light is better dispersed, you can see to the back of the trunk and into the corners as well. So that's the main benefit. Other than that, the light temperature is a little different. We're running cooler, actually near a 7K rather than 6K as I mentioned earlier in the video, whereas the factory light is at 5K. But hopefully this highlights the key differences between the two bulbs.